the greater, wider topic. I'm a bit rusty, a week off. So let me get back into the groove of things. So it's a doctor's surgery. Like I said, we operate on air from 8 until 11 on a Tuesday morning, each and every Tuesday. Well, apart from last week when we didn't get time to turn up. Um, the the premise of the doctor's surgery is to discuss the current affairs within the news and international news and social media, to discuss those current affair issues in greater depth and having dialogue about them with you, the listening audience, the public. We'd love to hear from each and every one of you guys. You can catch us, obviously, or if you're listening via the airwaves on 104.1 Omega or on omegafmradio.co.uk, or on mixcloud.com/Omega DJ, or on YouTube. The doctor's surgery, you search the doctor's surgery, and go to filter by channels, or refine by channels, and then you select channels, and we're right at the top. Okay, so yeah, we would love to. You can go onto the YouTube channel Doctor's Surgery and watch the past shows as well. So they're quite a good listen in parts. So we'd love for you to keep tuned in. So we'll jump in. Anything to add? As I ask my presenter who will sit in there. Right. So let's start on the subject at hand. There was comment over the weekend heavily, and like I say, if you've listened to any of my past shows, you all will know that I don't really tear down any public figure, black person, but however, I do scold them whenever they deserve a scolding. And for the first time, I give what's the MP's name again, David Lammy, in terms of bringing attention to the chartered flight issue that is scheduled to go to Jamaica very soon, where this is the issue at hand. There is, and I need to tread carefully with how I'm saying this but it needs to be said. There is this scenario where a paper had come out following the Windrush scandal. And for those who don't know what the Windrush scandal is, I'll be surprised. But so I don't need to explain that. I don't think everyone knows Windrush scandal, don't they? Right. So there was some recommendations that came out following Windrush. And one of those recommendations highlighted that the British government should stop deportations for anyone that came into the UK when they were younger than age 12. Now, one of the things that was highlighted by David Lammy is that a lot of the people on this flight to Jamaica, a lot of them came to the UK below the age of 12. Now, one of the things that we have to look at and get the balance is that whenever these recommendations come in, they're taken very seriously within the public. However, whenever recommendations are, whenever there's an investigation that leads to recommendations, it's always done using the public purse to actually get to an understanding of what went wrong and put in recommendations that should correct any discrepancies that have impacted anyone due to their race. We've seen that recently with the Windrush scandal, and we've also seen that recommendation that came out for the Jewish community. And we saw what happened to the ex-Labour leader, what's his name again? Jeremy Corbyn, for not following or not respecting the outcome of those reports. My gripe is, I don't understand that whenever it comes to us black folks, that everyone seems to just ignores, the British government in this case seems to ignore the recommendations, just brush them aside and just do as they please, and then there's no significant backlash in regards to this. Why is it that when it comes down to us, there is just so much of a lack of respect, a lack of acknowledgement of what's going wrong and make sure that things are done properly? Why is it that we can be always thrown under the wheels of the bus in such a disrespectful way? I mean, recommendations came out that highlighted certain things, and one of the things that should have been blatantly highlighted and done so even more profoundly is the fact that Windrush wasn't just Windrush because there were lost documentations. People need to start speaking up and saying it as it is. Windrush was Windrush because of the fact that they were Black folks. One of the things that came out of the EU negotiations for Brexit was that the EU is extremely concerned of what took place with the Windrush community, not because they cared about the Windrush community, but they were concerned of their citizens that will be living in the UK having the same treatment in 50 years' time. So it wasn't really per se that they were concerned about Windrush. They were just concerned about their own citizens' well-being in the long term by looking at the fact to say, if Britain can turn around and do this to a community, they could actually do it to anyone. But no one seems to be looking at the fact that the only reason Britain has done this to a community in the way that they've done it is because they deal with the government is dealing with Black folks, to which they have no respect for. Because when we look at the Windrush community got into the position they got into because of the immigration officers and the policies that they were working under. A lot of people don't like blaming the immigration officers, but the fact of the matter is most of those immigration officers carry strong prejudices. And this was seen as those that led to the Windrush, those civil servants that led to the Windrush problems were the same civil servants. A lot of them were the same civil servants that are overseeing the compensation system. Now, how can the individuals that caused the problem in the first place, that led to the investigation, lead to, how can they oversee the remedy to what the problem should be? That's absolutely ridiculous, because innately, or it should be natural in your thinking that if someone is going to take the law to that extreme to actually deprive someone of their civil liberties and their human rights, that innately there's some racial or strong prejudices already within that individual. And then to place that same bigot or that same bigotry principle, or those that were following that same bigoted principle, to correct what that bigotry had created, is absolutely ridiculous. But this is how they deal with us as a people. They deal with us with total disregard because we allow it. Not all of us, but on the greater part, it's like we sit back as a people and we allow certain things without flagging it up and saying it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we need to start taking a more and credit to the Jewish community, we need to start taking a more staunch position as the Jewish community do when anything goes wrong within their remit. Whenever anything goes wrong with something that they don't agree with, or a comment was said in a certain way, they take a very strong position straight off the cuff. But with us, it seems like people, we've received so much negative comments over the years that it's like a lot of us are either burnt out or can't be bothered. But you can't take that position of being burnt out. Let me know what you all think on it. But my position is that we have to start taking a stronger position in terms of not accepting anything like that. The moment something is not done right, we need to pull that government up on those actions. We can't rely on that dog-faced woman. What's her name? Preeti Patel. Yeah, I said it. I don't care. We can't rely on that. She ugly. You know what I mean? That woman got some chin like a pit bull. But anyway, we Another producer is telling me off right now. We can't rely on her because she don't like us. You can see in her actions that one, she's a bully. We know that she's a bully because the report and feedback came back that she's a bully. So two, she doesn't really care in that sense, because if she did, greater action would have been taken to correct and follow the recommendations in the Home Office that were given out from the Windrush situation. And as the head, not, of the Home Office within the governmental department, she should ensure that the civil servants follow through on those recommendations. That is her role. That, unless I'm mistaken, unless I'm calling her, I'm talking about her features for no reason if it's not her role. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, she looks like it. Okay. So let me know what you think. 0753-996-8143. We have to take a stronger stance and weed out racism. And it doesn't mean that because she's experienced racism, she's not racist towards us. You know what I mean? I've been to many places where it's not just white people that call me racist words. Everyone does. Even, so don't be fooled. Some people feel like when they at master's table, they can, they with master now. Yeah. So don't be fooled by that. So that's one of the things then that we have to kind of look at. So there's a lot of people on that flight, and by automatic default, this is one of the situations that were created from that. You have a lot of people calling in to say, once someone and the view that you get within from the public consensus, the general public, white Britain, is that, well, once you've committed a crime in this country and you're not a citizen of this country, then you should go home. And when we look at how certain people are penalized and punished within the UK, there's a strong discrepancy whenever this discrepancy only exists whenever the person is really black. They were talking about on the news this week about is it the Philpotts, the lady that and her husband that killed their kids, and then they killed their kids. The husband got a minimum of 15 years, and the wife, the mother, was charged not with murder but with manslaughter, and so her time is coming up to possible early release. Now you can imagine someone that killed their own very children. The public, when you get the public consensus from that, there's some people will say, well, this is the law, da, 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 da. And then you have others saying, oh well, it was a horrible crime. And then you have individuals that, and yet still they've been afforded every possible implementation of things, so that when they come out, they're not receiving any kind of biases, a change in name, a change of location, rehousing, everything. You know what I'm saying? They're getting the whole 9 yards. And yet someone someone that entered the country at 2 years old, below 12, anyone that entered that, you're entered into a system where you've become entrenched on a part of the system. Your being and your actions is not of a criminal that was raised up in the Caribbean, or wherever you came from. A youngster's mentality isn't shaped or fully shaped by then. Especially if you came here at 2, 3, 4 years old, you in essence are British. And a lot of those youngsters a lot of those young adults that are on those flights for deportation, coming here at a young age, ending up in the social care system, where the social services are responsible, have become their parents, and they failed to make those young adults they are now, where a responsible parent would have made them naturalized citizens. they would have been British citizens if someone was responsible enough to do so, you know. And if their parents weren't responsible enough so that they ended up in care within the social services are completely incompetent for the fact that they didn't follow through to make sure that these youngsters received the necessary support that should have been in place for them to get that. Now, having known the system, you see a lot of asylum seekers that come to the UK from other jurisdictions, you know, and they get sorted out within a quick space of time, and they get into the UK like some of them 16 plus, and that is something that is sorted out. So why is it that a youngster below age 12 and below can come into the UK, end up in that system, and still never receive that support? You have to start seeing the discrepancies that these institutions are doing. These institutions are being purposely prejudiced against your own. And I say your own, even if you're not from Jamaica or wherever you're from. Once you look like us and talk like us, and they're doing it against your own. There's a concerted effort to ignore certain crucial. Did I say something wrong? Oh, there's a concerted effort to ignore certain crucial things that should be in place. You know, and if that is the case, why is it that when the system fails these youngsters, rather than then recognizing that there was a failure in the system and supporting these youngsters, still the youngsters get punished again? So it's a treble punishment, really, because not only was it the case that social services, the government, was inept as parents, you know, so they were failed in that sense. Then being in the criminal justice system, having the penalty or the punishment by going to prison, then after coming out from prison, getting deported. That's triple punishment. And for some of them, they only had one offense, I should say. You know, so they might have been in trouble when they were like 13, 14, you know, or, you know, within the schooling system, they might have been in trouble where they've gotten probably certain little cautions, but then as adults, they've had one offense. So a system that has failed them continuously, you know, where one case that was highlighted was that a young man had his passport taken from him. He came to the UK when he was 11, had his passport taken from him. He couldn't work. I expect him to survive. I'm sure he wasn't getting any benefits. So he did what he's going to do as a young father. He's going to find the bread and butter to feed his kids. Who would just sit at home and be hungry? No one. And as a result of that, you know, not having any passport or identification to do anything, you can't interact or engage in the system. Where do you get funds from to survive? And being raised up in a system. So this is something that needs to be addressed, and needs to be addressed appropriately. You know, text message reads, Wazungu exalt Asian against we. We really have to get together. And that was from 746. Big up yourself, 746. If you want to take part or you got anything to add, let me know. The number is 0753-996-8143. I'll give it again, 0753-996-8143. And anybody wants it again one more time? 0753-996-8143. You know, so we have to start understanding that when these policies and recommendations come out, we have to push for these institutions, these governmental institutions, to abide and obey them. Because why use the public purse to fund these investigations, to get recommendations, then ignore the recommendations? We have to hold them to account. we genuinely have to hold these institutions to account, because if they're able to do anything and everything, even though their very own investigators' recommendations are ignored or not followed through appropriately, then it will always be a joke. They will always say, well, it's been investigated and their recommendations and we'll make, but yet if they're not doing it, then what would be the point? We have to start making sure that all these recommendations stick into not only just being recommendation, but become policies. And this is one of the things that I've been highlighting about the fact that we have to get these things written into law, written into becoming these recommendations from these very own institutions that are doing the investigations commissioned by the government are followed through as if it was legislative in the set with the same regards and respects. You know, we have to push for that. Less, as time goes by, we lose more and more of our rights. And that will be something that I will be discussing in terms of losing more and more of your rights within the impact of the vaccine scenario. So, we can see as time goes on, people lose their rights, some with rapturous welcome to losing their rights, but right. So I jump to the next topic. In about 2 weeks ago or so, about 2-3 weeks ago, I came across an article talking about the Jamaican Labour Party leader from the 80s, Edward Seaga. And for those who don't know, Edward Seaga, I think, ruled Jamaica from 1980 till the late 80s. And he was seen as someone that got there through support from the United States with CIA influence. And one of the things that when we look at Edward Seaga, when we review his legacy, one of the things that he's been credited with recently in the article is the creation of the garrison culture. For those who don't know what the garrison culture is, if you're old enough and you can remember the 2010 incursion into West Kingston, the Tivoli Gardens region, that was the first phase of trying to squash or crush the garrison culture that was generated in the Caribbean, where it was said that these enclaves were created in different areas in Jamaica where they were supported based on political affiliation. So depending on which part you're from, funds and certain things were pumped into the community. And the article, be biased or unbiased, highlighted the article, so not myself. The article highlighted the approach that he took, and how ingrained he became in terms of understanding the needs of the people that he supported. And it, from looking at it, he was very well versed in understanding the people of that area, and being able to be very supportive. In terms of helping his constituents, he was a very good MP, by the member of parliament, by the looks of things. He wasn't just there as a showpiece. He was very astute at his job. And the Tivoli became one of the biggest stronghold to ever have been created in that country. But nonetheless, garrison culture has created what they feel is an anger amongst us, and the anger is, of us being used, where we, in some parts, don't even recognize or realize that the system is utilizing are mobilizing against us. When we look at garrison culture, which is gang culture in the UK, you see when we talk about county lines and those things, you see young people that are disenfranchised being being given hope of creating significant wealth within a gang culture or a certain type of society. And as that grows, you have to start to wonder when we talk about the police going into the police, merging those two topics, going into the police talking about stop and search and black kids being 9 times more likely than their white counterparts to be killed. When we start looking at all of that, we start to realize that, and if you haven't realized that, county lines, gang culture in the UK, garrison culture in the Caribbean, whilst they're all politically motivated and created, none of this is by coincidence, it's by design. If you should get up and you start to, and the reason I'm saying that is not to discourage you from doing so, but is to make sure that when you enter that process, you enter with eyes wide open and with the appropriate approach to understand. You know nothing else. It's your lifestyle. If someone gives you the option to go to school or to have a gun, the lifestyle is, one is an easy way of feeding your family that is probably in a position of destitution. And so in understanding how garrison culture was created, we have to take a lesson from groomed in London by the political system. And some people might say, well, why is gang culture being cultivated? What's the purpose of that? The purpose of that is control and wealth. It's as simple as that, control and wealth. When we look at the type of music that is pushed out, I know that a fellow presenter on Omega, OG, likes to talk about, what's it called? What does he call it? Pro and Tel. I can't remember the name, the American system. He's highlighted the same factor in the United States, where certain music, if you do your research, you can see that certain music in America was given to the people, i.e. hip hop, to uplift. And when hip hop first came out, it was happy music. It was uplifted, raising the spirits, just like every other music. But then there was a time when it turned into gangster rap, and then now it's turned into all this. Everything about it is violent. Hip hop is immersed in a violent subculture right now. This year alone, I've heard about something like 10 hip hop artists in America being killed. So how did the music transition from being upliftment? Oh, you want to say something? Go on. I'm happy to be for the interjection.
I was just thinking, isn't it a case where in the past the artists weren't actually the people who embodied that lifestyle? Then whereas now the artists are very much the people who are immersed in that lifestyle.
That's very correct. You're 100% correct in that sense. However, there was a transitional point where the artists were pushed to mimic. It moved from just creating happy music first and foremost, where you were telling stories creatively, and so forth, to where it became impersonating a gangster lifestyle or gangster rap. All right, and then the whole embodiment now, where the majority was telling stories creatively and upliftment, and now it's reached a point where it's gone so far beyond that. It's the culture for everyone to live that lifestyle. And we have a live caller. All right. I call her. What's your name? Where you calling from? Your live.
Good morning, Dr. Cedric. I calling from London.
Good morning, Ade. How you doing?
I'm fine. We missed you last week.
Oh man, I apologize. I apologize. It's just last week got the better of me.
Anyway, I just wanted to make a comment about what we were just talking about. Now, with this hip hop thing, it actually show how it transformed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It started out obviously playing music, happy music, positive music, and then in the late 80s, early 90s, then it became like an upliftment type of movement where there was a lot of positive, African American sort of, images, lifestyles that was being promoted in it.
Mm-hmm.
Then around sort of like mid-90s, it began to change. Now, one of the things that I saw that happened there was the fact that the control, those who were actually putting out the music as far as the major record labels, they started to switch up on the positive artists and started to promote those who were into the gangster rap, and that took over the stage for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now, naturally, music is something that influences the youth.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, you had the rappers who would rap about it, but were actually living a lifestyle. Different that these days, some of these rappers, they actually live that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you're having like an increase in the number of deaths among young rappers. Some of them have not even reached 25.
Mm-hmm. But this is, and like you said, the transition and the change. With the transition and change, is it the understanding, is it your understanding that the negative aspect of the music was more pushed by those distributing the music? Because the funny thing is that only in hip hop culture is that violent aspect or etiquette of the music pushed more so than the positive.
Yes, there is a brother called Greg Lewis that did an excellent series of expose on hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the labels and stuff, they were heavily involved in pushing a certain kind of a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave much more, credibility to artists and funding as well as far as the marketing and promotional push that were promoting certain kinds of negative imagery.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So now, the main issue here is that when you have, because hip hop generates a lot of money, and if you look at the music industry as a whole, right? Back from the 60s to like 70s and stuff, when it comes to negative type things, it could be like demonic type, influences and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that you predominantly found in rock and roll, or you found in thrash metal.
How did Luciferianism get into hip hop? How did that take place?
How did what get into hip hop?
Luciferianism, Satanism.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to explain to you.
Mm.
So, historically, so you look at some of the rock and roll records or artists from, or even the thrash metal artists from like 70s, 80s and stuff, promoted and pushed it. Hip hop was very positive.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an agenda whereby, because the agenda is about capturing the youth so they can create a certain type of world in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, predominantly those who were listening to the rock and roll and thrash metal, obviously the rock Caucasian kids. And then you've got all the black kids that only getting this positive right. So there was, I believe, an agenda behind the scenes to try and redress that balance as far as their concepts. So you know what? We need to get those black youths as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that is how that entered the music industry, whereby artists were signed, and then when it comes to things like this, because videos were very, very, and still are a very good promotional tool, and to understand that you can actually capture young minds, impressionable young minds through imagery in the videos. The artists obviously, so not only their right their lyrics, okay? So there's certain lyrics that were written for them by people that have, different intentions. The videos, there's certain imageries that will be hidden within them. You have to be somewhat literate to be able to see these things or to be able to understand these things so it doesn't affect you on the level that it was designed to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's how it sort of slowly entered. And obviously some of those rappers that were drafted into those, codes, some of those codes that are behind the scene,
Yeah.
And some were happy to go along with it, and some of them didn't even know what it was all about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it sort of happened.
Okay. Yeah. All right. You have something you wanted to add?
No, you went into the trash, the heavy metal. And stuff like that.
The producer said that you stole her thunder. She wanted to comment on that.
She had her own foot on that.
Yeah.
But then you also got to look at something. What is happening here in the UK? Okay. Now, if you were around in the last 20 years, you will see how the UK hip hop scene has transformed as well.
Yes.
Okay? So back in the day, this was before people like Fly and Black Frank. You had MC Meadow, Caveman from Highwood, you know. But they were the pioneers, right? They were just about putting that music. They weren't controlling any of the business aspects of it.
That's right.
This generation, right? A lot of them are controlling as far as like their own, getting their own distribution deals and stuff. So they're creating their own wealth. But what you also know is there's now offshoots. Is it trap music?
Well, yeah, trap, drill.
Yeah, that's it. Drill that has a much
Grime.
more violent
It's true.
undertones to it.
True.
Drill.
So I think we're going to watch out for that. You can see that almost like the same kind of trend is beginning to happen within that thing as well.
But that's the thing, though. London is a large city. It's a mega city, and then the wider UK. We have to nip it in the bud, and we can't rely on. We know we can't rely on these governmental institutions to do that. And we have to start to say these things out loud, because these government institutions, they're the ones that want these things to thrive. They want the youngsters to create the narrative. I mean, if we sit down with a bunch of youngsters and we explain to them who makes the most money from their activities, they will think it's them. But when you explain to them how much money the lawyers make in the courtroom, and how much money the judges make, and then you have the security companies like your Serco or your G4S, and then you have the prison system. When you tell a youngster that that in a secured unit they make something like £1,500 per night per room for their board, if you can call it that, that's when they start to see where the true money is going in terms of their life. So they're the movements and the actions of their mentality is generating wealth for someone else. So we have to kind of break it down into that little nitty-gritty for them, so that they can start to see that what is perceived or misperceived as reality needs to be changed, because we manifest whatever reality we create. We can have that not necessarily happy rainbow reality, but we can have a reality where things are far more in a structured way, that we can all make a lot of money supporting each other, as opposed to.
I've always been of the opinion that, as an artist, okay, there's a million and one things that you can write and talk about.
Yeah.
But with some rappers, they get stuck in a mindset whereby this world has to be about bravado. It has to be about being this macho man. It has to be about being this gangster type figure. Now, the more you begin to write lyrics about that and to sing or to rap those kind of lyrics, the more those things can take over you. Even if you're not that way originally, you will begin to buy into that lifestyle and think you're that character you always rap about.
Very much so.
And then look at the recent incidents with the Stormzy and Chipmunk issue.
Yeah.
Where are you going to have a millionaire? I can't imagine this happening with maybe James Brown and Otis, going back to Otis Redding's house to try and fight him. Can you imagine that happening with that generation?
You have to look into the misnomer of that as well, whether that really was the case, or whether it was just I can't say it without the producer being angry with me, but just a spin because of who was trying to imply that's what the situation was.
Well, the incident did happen. Okay, obviously, we don't know exactly why, but then most people are still trying to figure out, why do you feel the need to have to go and look for man in that way? But anything with a
No, but this is what I'm saying. What you saw there was a spin by the girl that was in the photo in the video. It wasn't really essentially what was taking place. Well, I understand where you're coming from with that, to say that even if that was what was happening, it's ridiculous for these established artists to be showing and demonstrating that type of image, and which is what the youngsters see as glorification of violence in that sense. So from the fact that they both as men didn't come out and clarify that if that wasn't the case, they're just as bad, or for perpetrating and supporting that negative cast to be thrown out there. But the producers say no. Go on.
Basically, I think with us, right? I mean, I think this generation, this younger generation of UK rappers, I commend them as good because they've taken control of the business side of things in a way that the predecessors didn't.
You know, I want the producer to say her piece, because I'm going to let you speak to her, because I think I'm going to let you listen in on what she has to say, because I think it's pertinent that she might have a better or a clearer understanding for what is being represented by her generation.
I just think sometimes you remove the person from the artist. So with the whole Stormzy and Chip situation, Stormzy might handle the matter like that, like a normal person. So I feel like just because he's on a platform doesn't mean that he always has to rise to the expectation of not rising to every situation that is thrown at him. So I think sometimes we remove the person from the artist, if that makes sense. So
here's the thing. When you're in the public domain,
yes,
okay, there are certain rules and etiquettes that, by virtue of the fact that you're in the public domain in that way and you are perceived as a role model, okay, there's certain etiquettes that you have to begin to follow. I understand what you're saying, but life is about growth and development. So if you're going to make an excuse for that kind of behavior, then you are effectively saying, you know what, however it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that's going to be in forever.
That's not
you
what.
have to grow as a person, and when you're in the public domain, there's certain. It's like, imagine if that was Boris Johnson that had done that to Keir Starmer. Let's just imagine. Do you think people are going to be trying to come up with the argument that, well, maybe that's just the way he is? No, that is behavior unbecoming of a prime minister.
Well, but Ade, Keir Starmer did it to Jeremy Corbyn.
You can use that as two examples as well.
I'm just throwing it out there.
The higher we get up in society, the more responsibilities we accumulate, the more we're in the public eye, the more we become role models. We have to adjust accordingly. Okay? Because everything that we do, believe it or not, at that level, there are kids who handle every single word. If he decides to wear a certain kind of t-shirt or a certain kind of jeans, that could set a fashion trend, because everything that they do at that level, people watch. A lot of impressionable young kids watch.
That's right.
And learn from and try and emulate.
You know, and I can use myself as an example. I know that I got a very bad temper, and I'm a very angry person at times. So in saying that, you know, I can't essentially use this platform to portray rage. I have to use this platform to create balancement. Sometimes I rage. You might
say sometimes you make comments though.
Sometimes I rage, but I still have to. I don't rage on air as much as I rage off air.
But that's the point that I'm making, is that what I don't understand. Are you saying that Stormzy shouldn't react to nothing?
No, I'm not saying he shouldn't react to anything. I'm just saying that he has to understand that he's now graduated up to a higher degree.
All right. And let me just give the producer the answer for that. One of the things, right, that a lot of our young men don't do or learn or have learned properly is this thing when it comes to conflict resolution. Nobody's saying that you're not supposed to react, but it's how you react and in what manner you react that's the issue. Now, unless somebody has killed your family member or something like that, what is wrong with saying, you know what, well, I'm very, very upset with what you said or did. We need to talk about this, you know, and, is there any way that we can meet up and talk about this or just push it? There's nothing, worth you trying to do that kind of a You see, a lot of things get out of hand because the young men haven't learned about conflict resolution in the right way. It's not all the time you have to come with force.
That's true.
But who's to say that that didn't happen to start with?
No, but it wasn't given out.
When I was looking at that story, from what I heard and from the research I did, I didn't see or hear any evidence of force coming from the other side first.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. Again, I respect both of them. I'm not going to take anything away from Stormzy. I think he's been absolutely brilliant as far as, you know, getting himself out there, making something of himself, self-made, you know, young man. I totally commend and applaud him for that. He started scholarships to send African Caribbean children to, is it Cambridge?
Yeah.
So I applaud him for that. He's improved a lot of things, even things that we don't know about, charitable stuff that he does that we don't know.
No, he's doing his bit. You know, we can't fully hold him accountable to all that the ills of what's going wrong. But Ade, let me open up the phone line to someone else. You can shout back with anything else.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Give thanks to Ade. If you want to take part in the show, the number is 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. Text message reads, we owned our music then. I don't know if I can say that, but you feel that the music was influenced by Jewish managers in a negative way. That's I think in some instances, like that was an accusation made with the NWA group. So I understand where you come from. Text message reads, yo, what happened, Chef says, where you did the long time not hear from. Look, you and the rest of the old guard really got to come and take back control of the Breaking the Spell show. It's not the same without. Is this a new regular show? Peace and love, QB. 642, what are you saying? Wait, me sound like Chef says? 642. Yeah, the Breaking the Spell show was a good show, wasn't it? I think it's still on, isn't it? On a Sunday. I don't know what's going on with the Breaking the Spell show. I haven't had a chance to catch up. I know that there was a presenter, Neb, was doing really a good job in keeping the fire blazing with that, you know. But I think, you know, the ethos of this show is not really to lecture to people. It's to really have a dialogue and discussion. As they say, a different approach. The Breaking the Spell show is still there. It has that lecture program still going on where things are really being taught. And the key thing is once information is taught, we can listen, learn, and elevate the mind. But then with active dialogue, we create a unison thinking. So it's important to also have dialogue so that we can learn how to communicate with each other. One of the biggest problems that we have is that we can't communicate with each other. You know, I go anywhere that I've been in the world, and I go into a garrison area. I've been to some of the most atrocious garrison areas in every country that I've been to. And one of the things that I've always done, which my friends have always been astonished about, is how I get in there, speak the language of the people, because it's about learning to speak to people and just having dialogue with people. And I think it's one of the most important things in life. Through misunderstanding is where the biggest problems come from. And the well-being of this show is to having that dialogue, listening to you, the listening audience, having your opinion, not pushed down, but more so getting an understanding of how everyone comes to the conclusion that they've come to, because everyone thinks they know the right way for someone else, but the only person that knows the right way for you is you. So So having this dialogue with everyone, we're able to not take people off their path, but to steady that journey. You know, giving that journey a confidence boost, which is sometimes one of the most important things you can do. You know, so that someone is more confident in their actions and what they need to do. And if they feel that they're making a mistake or they need to change path, it's not because you're telling them to, but rather that they've seen that through their own realization and awakening. And that's the ethos of the show, to create that dialogue. So we talk about things pragmatically, and we say as it is. This is one of the things why you see, if you log on to the YouTube channel, you will see my face covered, is because, you know, I'm not trying to look for any fame or glory, but more so just to create that, to ignite that process. That's the premise. But give us a call, 642. You know, have a conversation. So jumping back into what we were saying. So when we left off, we were saying that, you know, these systems, you know, they fundamentally something that's orchestrated. So when we look at gang culture in the UK, that was by design. You know, that was by, as it's by design, we have to understand who master is in this whole situation. You know, because when we remove youth clubs from through reduction of funding from the 80s on through to the 90s, and you remove those youth clubs, where were the youths meant to go? And then from the removal of youth clubs, they were able to create youth offending services, because with the removal of interactivity during the summer months and during the, you know, where someone can go and hang out and be in a safe environment, once you've removed that, you've then created a problem is then created from that, to which you've given them a solution, which what you've done with the solution is created jobs. So now you got youth offending workers, which is like adult probation workers. That's job creation. And millions were pumped into these youth offending services. And when they pump millions into these youth offending services, I can assure you that millions were robbed in these youth offending services. Do some research. I can guarantee you that you will find, you will find that in the noughties and early and in around 2000 and 2014, you will find that a lot of youth offending institutions before the cuts came in were just hemorrhaging cash through illicit means. You will see that even like a few people went to prison for taking. So it was a way of filtering cash to friends and families, just like now this so-called pandemic or plandemic or whatever people want to call it. Cash is being hemorrhaged to jewelers that are all of a sudden mask experts selling masks to the British government. You know, institutions function. They're more crooked. They used to say Nigeria is a crooked nation, right? They're more crooked 100 times than Nigeria. They just know how to do it, and keep it down low. Whereas Nigeria might be there saying, yeah, and waving the flag, but they're far more crooked than that, because they steal it, they do it in such a blatant way in front of you that the only time they get pulled up is when someone didn't get their share. They flag it up to the media to say, well, this jeweler did this and this, because he didn't get his cut. That's all that happens sometimes. So don't sit here and look at the system that it's a good system, because once crime starts to be reduced as an initiative program, the police got less work to do, so less funding will go to the police. The police don't like that. This is why the police comes down heavy-handed on those organizations that are doing positive work in reducing youth offending. You know, they come down heavy-handed on these institutions, and then they say, oh, we need stop and search, we need more funding. It's all this rigmarole of cloak and dagger. So that's what's taking place, and we have to look, and that I can say, is something that we have to be mindful. So we'll jump on to the next subject. We can come back to any point that anyone wants to discuss. So far, for those just tuning in, welcome to the Doctor's Surgery. We do it each and every Tuesday from 8 until 11. We have Britain's first Black current affairs show, where we discuss everything that's taking place. Well, we discuss most things because we can't do everything. We discuss the pertinent and key things that have taken place in the media over the last week, and have a discussion around it, and a wider discussion. It's not a lecture, it's a discussion. So give us a call, give us a text with your point of view, so we can have a discussion around it. We've discussed the deportation, that flight going out tomorrow, that chartered flight, how wrong the government is with that, not following the policies and so forth, and the recommendations there. You can catch the first part of the show on the YouTube channel. So another issue is that one of the things that we highlighted a couple of weeks ago, and we will keep highlighting because it's becoming more and more evident, is that the vaccination process is coming more and more to a reality. So much so now, well, I don't know if you guys have heard, but they say Lewis Hamilton has got coronavirus, woke up with symptoms. So he's going to miss the Grand Prix. It'll be interesting to see, a bit of a side note, it'll be interesting to see if the replacement driver will win the race automatically. Bottas's job is under pressure right now. That's for the Formula One buffs out there. If he loses to the replacement driver, it'll be rather embarrassing. But anyway, yeah. So with this vaccination program that's coming online, we know that there's 3 different vaccines that the government has invested heavily into, in purchasing quite a few million doses from each of the 3 companies so far that have come up with some efficacy from their stage 3 vaccination test. We know that globally there's been something like 6 vaccines that have already gone into usage. The ones here, the 3 here that will be used are RNA-based vaccines. And there's been a lot of backlash from certain quarters of there being a refusal to even contemplate or think about taking those vaccines, and some people are willing to take those vaccines. All depends on who you speak to. Some people are against, some people don't mind, some people are just it's not a thought, and others are staunchly refusing. So it seems like Britain is in process of creating a 2-tiered system. The British government has already come out so far. Let's hope they keep their words with this one, to say that the vaccine will not be made compulsory. However, we have to start to contemplate whether schools, institutions out there like workplaces, cinemas, concerts, certain private venues, whether they're going to, I think schools can't, because they come under the government, and if the government's not making it compulsory, it'd be hard for schools to. But private institutions like cinemas, concerts, football matches, all these places may not let people in without a vaccine passport.
Any sort of mass gathering.
So as the producer said, any type of mass gathering, that is really something of concern, where private enterprises can turn around and then make you a second-class citizen. Now, one of the things that popped up in my mind when I heard this is, when you watch movies, a lot of people say movies tell you a lot of secret things. And there's a movie called The Avengers. I don't know how many of you lot have seen it. Where in The Avengers, you got Captain America. Is it Captain America fighting what the perceived Nazi replacements in the Avengers is called Hydra. So they're the secret organization within Nazi Germany called Hydra. And whilst Nazi Germany was defeated in the war, the secret organization within Nazi Germany wasn't. So Hydra lived on, and it in the manifestation of their agenda and their goal. And when we look at Nazi Germany itself, they had their eugenics program, and the eugenics program was all designed around, what it was designed around, perhaps population control, or perhaps the superiority of race. We know that there was a lot of eugenics, or the process of eugenics have been associated heavily with Nazi Germany. And you'd have to say, in principle, in premise, perhaps Hydra in reality would be the Third Reich. So you hear the saying, Nazi Germany fell, but the Third Reich didn't. The Third Reich existed onwards and so forth. So you have to wonder if the premises and the mentality of that system lived on. But it's becoming more and more evidential these days that perhaps it did. I don't know. Perhaps it did. What do you think? Because the reason I'm saying perhaps it did is because a lot of the premises that you read within the historical contexts of research, when you're looking back at these philosophies and principles of the 1930s and 40s, you get that notion that all that's taking place is that you're getting the same outcome right now, in terms of then it was forced onto people, and we know the Jewish fraternity suffered heavily as a result of that, with the branding and the so-called and becoming a second-class citizen. And then you have the same kind of system being rapturously welcomed, even though they say it's for the good of the world. Henceforth, why it's rapturously welcomed, in this sense. So it's like things have gone full circle, whereas one was forced onto the people, and this one seems to be something that the people are rapturously welcoming, and it's not being forced on because people just want it so much because they want to get back to some normality. But 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, the outcome is still the same: a tagging and labeling of a people, and that is frightening. So on that note, you have to wonder if you have to look at all those organizations that are purporting to implement that system. You have to wonder if you have to look at them and say, "Hey, Hydra." Think about it, because, and you all understand what I mean when I say "Hey, Hydra," right? Because it's a distasteful thing. People, if people want to take the vaccine, they should take the vaccine. I have no negative words to call people that are welcoming the vaccine, because it is what it is. They understand the risk. They understand that it's been tested the way it's been tested, and it's been pushed through faster, and they're happy to take it, then fine. And if people don't want to take it for whatever reason, because you have some people that just don't want vaccines, they don't do vaccines, full stop. If they don't want to, they don't want to. That's, again, down to the individual. I don't think people should be forced to do anything they're not willing to do. But yet, it's likely the case that you won't be able to even do air travel if you don't, because some countries won't allow you in, again, without this vaccine. And if you ever listen to any of what's his name, there was a movie called Predators, and there was this doctor in a glasses, and no one understood why he was there. He was very nerdy. Edwin, and he was like, that movie there. Edwin, played by the guy from the '70s show. You know, I can't remember his name. Remember the '70s show? You're too young for that. You don't remember the '70s show with Fez and all them lot? Oh man, am I showing my age? You know, but anyway, he played Edwin in that. You know, that guy must have sat there and watched Bill Gates' actions for like, you know, when you do you research a character when you want to do a show. So you research a character and then you play that character. Are you with me? Yeah. He literally acts and behaves like Bill Gates, but yet in the movie Predators, he was so out of place, and he turned out to be the most evil one. Everyone thought he was the angel and wanted to protect him throughout the whole movie Predators, but then he turned out to be the most evilest one. You know, the Doctor of Death. You know, and he was worse than the monsters. So when we hear Bill Gates years ago or over the last year in his interviews going and we have to and chatting all that stuff here, when you listen to him, that's just evil personified. You know, that's my thinking. What do you think? 0753-996-8143. And the reason I say it's evil personified is because it brings about this notion of creating a tiered system and labeling people, which awfully reminds me of the suffering of the Jewish people during Nazi Germany becoming a global setup, where you're having a global tiered system of people, where people without the label, in this instance, without the mark of the beast, being able to buy and sell. And I'm not saying it's the mark of the beast, I'm just using it metaphorically speaking, right? Some people might take it literally, some people might say it is, some people might just say, you know, society is trying to create a structure based on ancient writings or whatever the case may be. The fact of the matter is, it's a distasteful system. And we hope that throughout the whole of this, we can get society back to normal without, you know, violating people's rights and creating a tiered system in a more structured and well-balanced way. Come on, Britain. You know, you've always led the way in correct behavior. Britain was the flagship, as corrupt as every country is. Britain was the flagship to stand against Nazi Germany. You know, I hope the British government's not going to be a Chamberlain in this situation and acquiesce to tyranny in some sorts. You know, so Britain was a flagship against slavery, and it was a flagship against Nazi Germany. So let's hope that Britain will be a flagship again, somewhere that you can say, well, it's the best place to live in Europe, because so far it is the best place to live in Europe, to my thinking. Text message reads, this radio station should be telling the people not to take the poison vaccine. 016, I hear what you're saying, but I cannot tell people not to or to. I have to tell people they have to make an informed choice on their own. Why would I tell someone not to take something, and then if they don't and something happens to them, am I liable? Am I responsible for being irresponsible? You know, people have to make decisions on their own. I understand where you're coming from. And I read your message in its purity, so someone that is not convinced might call in and say, what do they mean? And we can do a three-way, right? We can have a conversation where you can call in and say your piece. If you want to call in and say why you think it's a poison, you know, you can call in and do that, and then someone can call in and say, no, I don't agree with that, and so forth. You know, But whether someone takes it or doesn't take it, I mean, it's on their shoulders, be it, because if you're not going to take it, make sure then that you're living a healthy lifestyle. You're doing what you need to do to keep your immune system high and functional. If you're not going to take it, so your body's in a position to overcome, and not be impacted like the subgroup of people that will or can be impacted by the virus that's out there. So but it's not for me to tell people, oh, don't do this or don't do that. Nah, I ain't gonna do that one. People need to make a conscious decision. If you decide not to, that's, I don't think anyone should say anything negative to you as a result. When we listen to the national broadcast stations, everyone that's not willing to take it, they always try to create some subtle way of disparaging them. All people that don't want to take it, they're stupid, they're irresponsible, all these things. No, I'm not going to say that. If you don't want to take it, more power to you. Who am I to tell you what you should or shouldn't do with your body? You need to protect yourself how you feel fit, or you need to do what you need to do to feel as you feel fit. If you want to take it, who am I to tell you don't? Again, that would be irresponsible of me trying to convince you against something, why you should or shouldn't. I'm just here to have that discussion and make sure that everyone understands what they're doing, when they're doing it, and they're not being misled into doing anything they should or shouldn't be doing. But again, that decision is yours. And that's how it should be. You are the master of your life and yourself and your own future. So make sure you make the right decisions for the best outcome for yourself. So that's the scenario. I guess no one wants to talk about the vaccine. I'll give the number again, apart from the text message, before I summarize and come back around. I'd love to get a call from someone on it. But it seems like it's not going to happen. People, it's probably talked out, right? 0753-996-8143. I'll give it again, 0753-996-8143. One last time for the money, 0753-996-8143. Seductive surgery, we do it each and every Tuesday morning from 8 until 11. We're Britain's first Black Current Affairs show, and we have an active discussion, on the issues that are key and pertinent that's been discussed in the media over the past week, and we have a good conversation about it. And you can listen on Omega 104.1 or on omegafmradio.co.uk, mixcloud.com/Omega DJ. Just to touch on something quickly, London Borough of Brent African Caribbean Community Leadership Election. If you don't know about it, the London Borough of Brent is having an African Caribbean Community Leadership Election, where someone is going to be elected that can be a spokesperson or a proponent for the local authority, for the community, the Black African and Caribbean community. We have a spearhead, a united voice to, engage with the wider local authority as a singular entity to create more of an impact. Whenever you hear, like in the news, they talk about the Islamic community, there's always an organization that's set up to support the Islamic people within that city or local authority. There's always a group that's a spokesperson. Likewise, whenever you hear about any little thing like that, there's always a spokesperson. Well, this is about creating that type of setup where there's a community elected spokesperson for the community. So if you go to Facebook, Omega Radio 104.1 homepage, scroll down to Black Community Leader election and then click logo to vote. Okay, the candidates, the 9 candidates. I'm sure there was more candidates. Wasn't there more candidates? There's 9 candidates. There were more candidates, right? So it seems like there's the candidacy is reduced. I'm not sure why, but I may be wrong. But so there's 9 candidates to vote for. You have Amenti, the Awakener, Andrew, and this is not in order of it's just in alphabetical order, right? So Amenti, the Awakener, Andrew Mohammed, Cheryl Phoenix, High Priest Amun, King Lion, Lady M, Leah Mohammed, Leonard Johnson, Nubian Jack. One more time. Amenti, the Awakener, Andrew Mohammed, Cheryl Phoenix, High Priest Amun, King Lion, Lady M, Leah Mohammed, Leonard Johnson, Nubian Jack. The cutoff date is the 25th of December 2020. The community leader elected will be announced the last day of Kwanzaa, which is the 1st of January 2021. Okay, so if you live in Brent, make sure you support that process there. You don't want someone to be speaking on your behalf that you don't feel comfortable. So I'm sure there's their policies and procedures and what they're purporting to represent. The information will also be available on that. I know there was a chat. I missed it, or if it's not come up yet, they were meant to present their policies and procedures. Was it last week? I can't recall. Sorry, I apologize. I can't remember when that was meant to be. If anyone knows that, can you just text it into me, please? But yeah, someone had asked that a couple of weeks back, and I know that I'd given the time frame of when that was going to be taking place. Right. So if you want to take part in this show, 0753-996-8143. I'll give the number again, 0753-996-8143. It's doctor's surgery. So just to go back and recap what we've been discussing. The first aspect of things that we were discussing was the deportation issue, where that's reared its ugly head again for chartered flight scheduled for tomorrow, going to Jamaica. We discussed garrison culture and the impact of that. And we've discussed the vaccination and compulsion, and we've discussed the police stop and search in relation to that, saying that the young black boys are 9 times more likely to get killed than their white counterpart. I wanted to discuss as the final topic today in terms of what I've coined as black subcultures. And I'm hoping to find a delicate and tentative word to go through each one of these, this aspect of the discussion today. We talk about black subcultures. In the UK, we know that over the last couple of weeks, there's been a big furore, if I can get the word out, regarding black families being presented on TV. And it was really it was really shocking and emphasized the rise of racism again on a global scale and in the UK, because as you can see, racism is again back on. Now, this is shocking that racism is so profoundly on the rise again after a summer of what was seen as a wider global awakening following the George Floyd killing and the re-emphasis and greater rise of the Black Lives Matter movement. Someone said a key thing that BLM, or the Black Lives Matter movement, is only pertinent and key when someone has died, because that's the only time you see them come into the fray. It's only upon death, which is garnered that that ambience right now, that Black Lives Matter seems to only have an impactful meaning on death. And we know that the likes of Lewis Hamilton is pushing to end racism and, you know, help to make the Formula One sport a bit more accessible to all. So when we look at the Sainsbury's and the Tesco advert, two sets of adverts, one showing a purely Black family for getting ready for Christmas, was it? And the other showing a subsection of a Black family. The backlash that the conclusion that we have to draw isn't essentially that there's a backlash because there's Black people on TV. That seems to be the general mistake that people have made, that the white folks don't like seeing Black folks on TV. That's not the emphasis of what's taking place here. What's clearly taking place, and what you can see based on the evidence presented, is that there's a backlash towards Black families where there's a Black dark-skinned male with a Black dark-skinned female. And whenever the adverts show a structured Black family, what you see is a significant backlash from that. So what is acceptable on TV? It's, and funny enough, I was so surprised that, what's his name? Nick, is it Ferrari? He discussed and just nonchalantly admitted that mixed race families, yes, they are accepted. In his deep tone voice, yes, mixed race families are quite acceptable on TV. So why aren't Black families now? So it can clearly be seen that
mixed race or interracial.
He said mixed race, but I know he meant mixed families as in interracial. Okay. They're accepted on TV, and I would say this. I would probably say mixed race families as well, because we know that you have mixed family presenters on TV.
No, I just wanted to make the distinction between the two.
Mm-hmm. Now, well, the ethos is this: a mixed race family is acceptable, a mixed family is acceptable. So a Black partner with a white partner is acceptable, or two mixed individuals are acceptable. What is not acceptable is two dark-skinned proponents. That's not acceptable. And that leaves the issue of debate about Black and Black subcultures. And the reason why I say that is there's something that we've touched on in the past, but not in this context, where we have to keep refining things as we go along, and we realize the depth of the difficulties with the subject area. Where in the past we've discussed about mixed folks in today's society not wanting to be classified as neither Black nor white in some contexts, and then we have mixed folks in today's society all saying they're black, but then in certain contexts is saying, yeah, they're black, but they're from mixed hereditary. You know what I mean? So it's a it's an issue within the subculture to say, how can we remedy this extreme bias? Because it was presented by that same LBC presenter to say, well, it's progress that mixed families are allowed on TV. That's progress, isn't it? That was his exact words. Whereas it's not. It's an acceptance of a process that, and I don't mean this disrespectful to families within a mixed context, but it's an acceptance of a process that rejects blackness. And I'm sorry, I had to say it. And I'm not saying that by doing that you've rejected your blackness. I'm just saying it's viewed as such on a wider context within society. And I'm not saying I'm attacking you per se on your personal choice. I'm just saying it's accepted as such in a wider view of society, because when we look at what we spoke about, Stormzy and what's the other fool name and Chip earlier, and we spoke about the responsibility and how things are presented and so forth. In the same context of things, we have to look at how things are perceived by a younger audience. If I was going to say if a black female, but the producer is going to attack me on it. So
no, say it.
Now, I was just going to say, if a black female always has processed or straight hair, nothing's wrong with that. But they and children, if we all had, if they all had that, and the youngsters growing up were seeing that, subconsciously speaking, the youngsters would be programmed to think that is the acceptable level of beauty in their minds. So I just say that to say we have to think about the psychological impact of the youngster, what they see and they perceive as acceptable or as beautiful. So we have a responsibility based on the image we portray to the younger audience. Would I be correct in saying that? Would you agree or disagree? You understand what I'm saying so far?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, so we have to recognize, I have to tread so carefully. We have to recognize the psychological impact that the youngster whose thinking hasn't been fully formed as yet in the notion of beauty and acceptability, what they're seeing and what is being generated over time in terms of what it is. Now we have idiots like Reggie Bush, you know, that says this is what the black family should look like, and he presents himself with his white wife and mixed race kids and saying this is what the black family should look like.
And change the narrative.
Huh?
That's what he said. Change the narrative. So change the idea that a black family consists of two black parents.
So you know what I mean? So it's like you have this self in this context, not in every mixed situation, but in this context, this is a man that hates himself, hates the image of his own mother and father. Who is Reggie Bush?
Is he a
NBA
player?
You know, you start to see the fact that this man hates himself so much that he wants people to accept his decisions to be the standard of what's appropriate. So we have to be, and it's not, I'm not picking on the mixed institution. I'm just picking on the mentality of some and the failure for all of us to see what's being perpetrated and presented to a younger audience. I mean, if you want to be in a mixed situation, be in a mixed situation. Ain't none of my business. However, we have to all consider the impact of actions on society, because every action has an equal and opposite reaction, or as a reaction where there is an outcome from that action, whether you care about that outcome or not. And if we're looking and we're thinking as a wider community, we have to think about those youngsters that are being penalized and punished for wanting to be with their own, to feeling lesser than self. You know, because this is what's taking place right now, because mixed children are very, very accepted more and more within society, which is fine. That should be the case. Everyone should be accepted. But it seems like society is doing it at the peril of accepting the darker skinned person within the context of a darker family. So it's subtly perpetrating a significant and profound racial hatred system. Call you live. What's your name? Where you calling from? Greetings. Greetings, Ivy. Good to hear from you. I'm glad to hear from you, sis.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, and I said to the studio producer a moment ago, that my daughter is now 24 years or 24 years young. And she thanked me a little while back and said, "Mom, I thank you so much for not processing my hair." I didn't process her hair, nothing else. She goes, "I'm so glad." Nothing. She got the blow dry and natural, easier thing to put chemicals in her hair. Look, she wears a little weave, and the main one was the Brazilian. I said, "You know, that Brazilian hair belongs to." Don't get me wrong. I blow my trumpet a little bit because I feel that my hair is a little weave. I try to keep it as natural as possible. Just in saying that, and advocating what you're doing is brilliant, because we really need to show our children our texture of hair is a natural style here, and mine is very, very coily. And in advising my son, the older one, I said, "This was son, with all due respect, remember how mommy's hair is." And I never told him to choose a girl, never told him anything like that. I just said, "Remember your mom's type of hair."
Yeah.
Right? It's very rough.
Yeah.
And I think he got the message, talking speaking.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have to start being proud of who we are, and the more we run away from who we are, the more we end up hating ourselves, and then we expect people to love us, and the more they hate us.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head, King. The nail on the head. Perfect.
All right, Ivy, thanks a lot. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. No worries. Thank you for calling in. All right, thank you.
All right, bye for now.
Yeah, so it's like there was a recent viral video on Instagram where we're a bit, as a people, we're a bit uncouth in societal thinking. So there's a lot of our behaviors that is seen as uncouth. So the moment you engage in those activities, it's frowned on. I think we have to start to embrace who we are, the uncouth aspect of things, as well as the more sophisticated side of things. And we have to allow it to merge and find a natural dynamism. You know,
equilibrium.
That's the word I'm looking for. You get me? A natural equilibrium. Thank you. Yeah. That's we need to find that equilibrium. The viral video is of a restaurant owner going off, swearing in his restaurant, telling these black women that they're denigrating themselves for twerking in his restaurant when he's tried to create a place for black folks. And the funny thing is, he didn't see the hypocrisy of his actions, because he spoke to them on several occasions calmly and peace. He got frustrated and showed an ignorant side to the resolution. whilst we understand the frustration and the ignorant side to the resolution, we also have to understand that not every female is in a lifestyle or cultural setting or thinking based on parentage and upbringing and how they survive in a rough world, that they're going to know that a little bit of twerking is such a they've survived and paid their bills and got out of perhaps destitution through those kind of actions. So they see it as something they it's them and they're proud of it. Now, me personally, if they're in there, my restaurant twerking, I know that next week my restaurant's probably going to be full up because everyone, they say, what, girls over there twerking? You have men around the corner queuing to get into the restaurant, right? 75% women. Man, when I go to Dallas, I'm going to that restaurant. That's what that be my thinking. You get what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is that we can't realize, we have to learn to be more understanding to each other and understanding not to be ashamed of ourselves and say, yo, you know what? If present where your equilibrium point is so that someone can say, oh, you know what I mean? Find that natural balance, and create that symbiotic relationship between opulence of the educated and opulence of the self-taught. And when I say opulence of the self-taught, I'm talking about those people that we would classify in terms of ghetto bougie. Because when white folks take some aspect of the ghetto living and add it into their fashion world and stuff, it becomes opulent. But when we had it, it was ghetto. So we have to learn to find the equilibrium and embrace what is ours, because they say pressure creates diamonds. And that's all this system does. Pressures us, stresses us out, sees the natural creativity that we have to utilize to survive, and then steal it. And they steal everything from us. The hairstyles, the crazy fashionable hairstyles that you see out there were on the catwalk, those are African hairstyles. Those are black hairstyles that have been taken and the Breaking the Spell show used to have a word they call uranicity. Yeah, I never forgot that word. Yeah, they used uranicity. They taken it and made it white. All of a sudden, it's acceptable. It's sophisticated. But yet, when it was a black person doing it, if white women had big bums like our African sisters, twerking would be the most sexiest thing on the planet. But because the big voluptuous woman is predominantly African, some Phoenician, you understand what I mean when I say Phoenician, yeah? Because the big bum is predominantly African, all of a sudden it's vulgar.
Yeah, but that's a pandemic at the minute, because even the African woman doesn't necessarily have the biggest bum, and they're getting all the injections and stuff like that now as well.
You see, this whole injection lifestyle is a whole different thing. I can't even comment on that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm surprised when I'm seeing big bum women bums to make their big bums bigger. It's like, okay, what's going on here? But what I'm saying is voluptuousness in terms of dexterity is naturally an African feature, predominantly. Even the slim African women have dextral rear. Yeah, man. Yeah, you know what I talk about. Yeah, you can laugh if you want. Yeah. No, I'm just saying we have to be proud of who we are, and within Black subculture, we have to start realizing. And I'm saying this to my mixed brothers and sisters. I'm not attacking you, but you all need to understand that the game that they're playing between us. Reggie Bush, if you want to marry your white woman and have your mixed kids, do so, and do so quietly in your own space without denigrating the beauty of the Black family that created you. No one cares what you think the Black family representation should be, because you choose to go down that road. And likewise, you shouldn't care if someone else wants to take a black partner as a black man and create a black family of children that look like their parents. That should be the individual choices. It shouldn't be that there should be denigration on one or the other.
Can I just intervene quickly? You know, with the whole Reggie Bush situation, I don't think it's particularly aimed at his father. I think that was more aimed at his mother.
Of course it was aimed at his mother.
So when you say the black family, you have to look at certain situations because their efforts is targeted to one specific parent.
You know, so we have to think. We always have to be thinking until we can get to that equilibrium point where natural acceptance and natural beauty is automated in society. We have to set our foundation and our roots in a staunch position and brace. We have become too complacent. The youngsters of today have become too complacent in accepting Europeanized standardizations because their parents didn't want to teach them about the struggle or why it was so difficult. We're going to take a pause for the cause and we're going to catch you back on the other side. All right, go and pay some bills. So keep listening. We catch you back on the other side. It's the doctor's surgery.